Hey, y'all. What is up? Life Coach is in the building, and today I'm coming to share a gem with you. If you listen to podcasts, the IMO podcast with Michelle Obama and her brother Craig Robinson is a must for you to add to your list, and I'm getting ready to tell you why. I heard about it early on and I was like, oh, okay, just another podcast. But then I was like, anything Michelle Obama does is always done in excellence. If her hand is in it, it's going to be good. And when I tell y'all she dropped some gems in this podcast, just some good old life advice. As always, things that we've probably heard before, but really need to hear again. Now, each episode is about 45 minutes long, maybe a little longer. I think the podcast episodes drop on Wednesday, and there have been a few already. The first episode they did, her and Craig together just kind of talked about how the podcast came about, and they also talked about their upbringing a lot and really paid homage to Michelle and Craig's mom and dad, talking about, how they came up with virtually nothing really and lived in a really small space to where they are now, how they progressed through school and college, and also their careers to the point where they are now. They've had a couple of other episodes as well. And the latest episode they did with Kiki Palmer is a must listen for young adults, even teenagers, because in it they share life advice about how the goal isn't one big goal. Like you're not aiming to reach one specific point, but you have small achievements along the way to your big goal, and that fulfillment within and happiness within shouldn't come from one thing. I want to share a quote with you that Michelle Obama said just in talking, and I was like, I need to run that back because I need to write that down because that is gold. She said, life is about the chapters. It's never any one thing. And to place too much stock or too much emotion on one or two achievements, it always sets us up for disappointment because life is bigger than that. And she's absolutely correct. Her and Kiki and Craig talked about how it's good to be happy with life in the in between when there isn't anything big to celebrate at the moment and there's not really anything that's too pressing you got to dig yourself out of, nothing exciting is happening around you, and you are in a space where you are just being and moving through life day to day, and how it's good to be happy right there. You have to find your happiness within. And um they mentioned something I think is good for the young, upcoming, aspiring college graduates, that life isn't um, about happiness that you find in salaries and titles. Because I've been there. I was an achiever. I'm like, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get that, I'm going to make this amount of money and that amount of money. And then I just had to think about it. It's like I'm chasing all of this success and I'm getting it degree after degree. I'm moving from this job to that job, and my salary is moving along with it. But then you sit back and you're like, what is the fulfillment in that? I'm working to pay these bills, is what I'm doing. But at the end of the day, who am I and what do I enjoy outside of this thing that I have chased and I've already achieved? So the podcast in that regard is really, really good. It's giving a relaxed fireside chat where you just kind of go in with a cup of tea or hot chocolate and just kind of sit down and have really good conversation with people who have actually been through something in life. Kiki Palmer talked about how people basically sold her a dream about her first movie, Akilah and the Bee. And they told her once she did that movie that she was going to do this, she was going to do that, she was going to have this and that. And so she had all these expectations in her head about what was going to come with being the star of a movie. And, the movie flopped at the box office. And she was kind of left with this, now what? This movie didn't do so good, and now what? So I think that's confirmation for me, because that's right in line with how I like to tell people, do work here. If you're here for a certain period of time and you don't like it, it's okay to move on. You don't have to. Gone are the days where people get to one job and stay for 25 or 30 years. Like, it may happen every once in a while, but I feel like there's a reason my dad told me, hey, give it 3 to 5. 3 to 5. That was his motto. Know what that meant? 3 to 5 years. And then on to the next thing. If it's not fitting like a glove, if it's not fitting like home, you out of there. So I think that this podcast is a really good, relatable listen for people of any age. Particularly if I had to stick an age group on it, I would say let's look at about maybe from age 11 on up, when people really start to think about the things they like and what their identity is. And they, not to give away the whole podcast episode, this particular one with Kiki Palmer, because this one was good. I'm going to go back and re-listen to everything else, but I had to pull out my notebook for this, because they also talked about how we ask kids what they want to be when they grow up, and then they feel like they're tied to this one thing that they said, and we have that in our head that that's what they want to be, so now we're pushing them toward that, not even thinking about the fact that their interests may change as their life experience happens. So if you have an additional hour to spare a week, I'm telling you that this podcast is a very, very good time investment. Give it a listen. Let me know what you think, or let the host know what you think. Once again, this is the IMO, which stands for In My Opinion podcast, with Michelle Obama and her brother Craig Robinson. I'm getting ready to roll. Until next time, when I come back to share a little wisdom or something that I've run across, I hope you have an amazing day. Until next time, toodles.